Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be my top 10 navy eyeshadows. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In today's video, I'm going to be doing another top 10 in my color series. I've been doing this for the entire year now. I started doing it earlier in the year, and the idea is to keep this train rolling until the end of the year, where I select one color and I show you my 10 favorite shades in that color. And this one was supposed to go live in March, but then so many people had requested I do purples that I moved the purple one up to March, and I just exchanged it for the month I had originally planned it, which was June. So that's why we're doing navy eyeshadow today, even though, you know, navy is a stunning shade for the summertime, I think. So I think we can still like get down with navy shadows even though it is a warmer season right now, because blues with warm tones is one of my favorite looks to do in the summertime. So if you love your navy blue eyeshadow, then hopefully this video can give you a good overview, or maybe if you were looking for a couple of recommendations, then this video can be helpful as well. But before we get into it, I would like to point out that I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, and this greatly influences my makeup and how I like wearing it and what I like doing with it. I've also been reviewing makeup for more than a decade, so I know what I like, and when I say something is a favorite, it's a favorite. And if you're here for eyeshadow content, eyeshadow palette related content, I should say, Essence and Catrice, and getting the use out of your makeup, then maybe this channel has something to offer for you. So if you'd like to consider subscribing by clicking the subscribe button down below and joining my Snow Angel family. Alrighty, we have 10 navy eyeshadows, and for some reason, most of my navy eyeshadows are in palettes, and some of these, sad, are discontinued. So I do apologize about that. I have one single shadow for you, and it's in here. My blue singles palette I put together when I reorganized my singles collection. This is what it looks like, and there is a stunning navy blue in the bottom hand corner. This is Sydney Grace's Indiana Love, and this thing, it packs a punch. It has a grayish undertone. Again, navies can have very many different undertones depending on how they're blended, how much black they have, whether they pull a bit more gray, if there's a bit more white running through it. And I feel that this is a very nice gray toned navy blue. It's not that vibrant, like it doesn't go into like this section of the navy blues. It's not like these. It's more like grungier navy blue, and those are the navy blues I tend to prefer, but I do have a couple of the brighter options in today's video as well for people who would like to see that. So yeah, Sydney Grace's Indiana Love is one of the best navy mattes I have ever come across, simply because it is really, really intense. It's a shade that's not for the faint of heart. It blends very smoothly though, but it's insanely pigmented. So you do only need to dip your brush in a little bit, and then you get a complete color payoff right from the bat, which is what we love. Another great navy, and I had to put the palette here off to the side because I just featured it in another video as well, but it's in the Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse. And in here, we again get more gray tone navies. I especially like the shimmer one in here. So this matte is nice, but I feel that the darker mattes in this palette they're not patchy or chalky, but you know, when you start blending them, that it just takes a bit more time to get them to look smooth. With the Sydney Grace, I feel that's no issue, but with this matte definitely has a little bit of trouble blending. Now the shimmer in this navy shimmer that I'd like to select for this video isn't as intense as you might expect. It's more like a matte with shimmer, looking more like a satin than like a true metallic. We'll get to a metallic navy shimmer in a minute. This is a lovely shade though. It looks stunning on our lower lash line, which is how I like to wear navy eyeshadow very often. Of course, you can do a full-on blue look, but a pop of blue on the lower lash line, I swear, if you have brown eyes and you've never done that before, please do. And something like the Sydney Grace Indiana Love shade that I just mentioned is also stunning as liner if you just use an angled brush and apply it as liner with like an otherwise like neutral look like this. It's absolutely stunning. And this one especially I like from this palette. It's one of my favorite shades that's in here. Shall we talk about that navy shimmer that I love? It's in the Muerte. I'm terribly sorry. I'm now looking at the pile here and there are more discontinued palettes in here, I'm afraid. In here, we get these two navies. We also get this gray blue, which I love as well. It's such a good grungy shade. But that shimmer, I believe it's called Katrina. Yeah, Katrina. It's my favorite shade in the entire palette. It's got a bit of a dip even. It's got so much sparkle. It's of course melts, so their shimmers are sparkly and can be a little bit flaky and difficult to work with. But I love this one for like a navy smoky eye. These are the three shades I use. This in the crease, this to deepen things up or like really smoke out the lash line, this all over the lid, and it's like instant perfect navy blue smoky eye. If you've never done a navy blue smoky eye, again, if you have brown eyes, it's so much better than a gray toned or a black one. You can do so much with navy blue eyeshadow if you have brown eyes, because it's the perfect juxtaposition of making those brown eyes pop, which is why I prefer. Like out of all of the shades, like I love purples, I love greens, but something about navy, it just really, really tickles an itch for me. So the Melt Muerte Katrina, for that reason, is one of the best navy blue shimmers I've ever found. This may not seem fair, but the BH Cosmetics Love in London. Now, is this truly a navy? Maybe it's debatable because it's pretty gray toned. But the shade T? No, London. Sorry, this is T. This is London from the Love in London. It's such stunning blue shade. And again, we get a lot of neutrals here. So my go-to look whenever I use this palette is just a basic like eye with that taupe all over the lid. And then somehow putting this blue somewhere in the look. I've used it almost in every single position where you can put an eyeshadow. Like lower lash line work, as a liner, in the outer V, in the crease. Like this shade can just go everywhere because it has shimmer, but it's not the kind of shimmer that's overly metallic where it looks weird in the crease. I know some people get weirded out by putting shimmers in their creases. I've been doing it for years and it actually makes an eyeshadow so much more blendable. So if you're struggling with navy blue mattes, try one that's more satin shimmer leaning and you'll have a field day blending it for sure, and especially the formula in this BH palette, chef's kiss. Are these still available? I don't know, but the Nabla Midnight Cutie palette is one that has this. And here again, I don't necessarily love the shimmers in here because they're a bit sheer. So the shade in here that I prefer most is the Navy Matte. That's really lovely, but this formula is, I feel, is not, you know, as intense as the Sydney Grays. I love both of these, but I'll be swatching out the matte one for you because that's the shade I like best. It works pretty well in the crease with a fluffy brush if you go in smaller sections, but this is a shade that you do need to build up and you need to be careful with it because it can look a little over blended if you aren't careful. And that's just because the navy in here is quite hardly pressed, which means that it's going to be a bit more difficult to pick up product and to get that seamless blend. This is eyeshadow that does make you work a little bit harder than some of the other formulas I've just talked about, especially in this navy blue shade. If you want navy blue though, I would highly recommend also looking into Glamshop. I believe this palette in particular is no longer available, but they still sell other palettes that have blues in them. This is Polish for blue, in case you're all wondering, and this is absolutely stunning. This shade is what I probably wanted that Nabla Midnight Cutie shade to do. It's such a good navy matte. It's more on the teal end of a navy, like if we get a little bit of, it's got like a hint of green in there, but it definitely looks navy on my skin tone, so I like it, but it probably, compared to all of the other blues, if I swatched them all out together, which I'll show you at the end of the video, I think this is going to pull a bit more green tone than the other ones. But I love it in this. This is so stunning as eyeliner. Like this, even if you do a full-on blue look, it can still add the definition just to darken up that lash line a little bit to really have some contrast with some of these more intense shimmers that the palette has to offer. However, this is also really stunning if you know, again, on the lower lash line are doing that. But this is almost too dark for it to look blue if I don't use it in its full concentration and it doesn't have something to clash against. So with a neutral look and then that shade as a liner is probably even better than wearing it with a full-on blue look, so you can really get the full effect. And I've always felt that the Niebieski palette from Glamshop is a really good alternative to the discontinued Sweet Shop palette in Bubblegum from BH Cosmetics. Sadly discontinued as well, but look at that shade. I don't think that we can get a truer navy blue than this. Navy blue, like I said, sometimes it's a bit gray, sometimes it's a bit green, sometimes it's a bit blackened, but this navy blue is just, it's such a stunning shade. I pretty much keep this palette around for this and that teal shimmer. Like, the other shades in this palette don't really matter to me, but this is such a good navy blue that still has that brightness that you expect a blue to have, but then it does have the depth that we want from a navy. So if you're thinking of really good navy blues, then this one is definitely one I love. To keep going with something that's also discontinued, the Beauty Bay Book of Magic. I'm sorry, this is not my favorite palette, but because it has a couple of stunning shades and because I love the look of the color story, I keep it around. But it's got this one right here. Not my favorite blue of all time, like this. It just has a slightly weird undertone, and I don't love the Beauty Bay formula. I've said it many times before. Some people get upset with me if I say that. Yes, it's a very affordable makeup. Yes, it's very pigmented, but I feel that the more pigmented eyeshadow sometimes is, the less blendable it becomes. And this, yes, it picks up product like a dream, but with my hooded deep set eyes, it's just far too intense. I have very little space for blending, so I don't need super pigmented shadows that I then need to blend out. I need something that blends itself, and this is not that. So from a formula standpoint, I don't love the Beauty Bay formula for that reason. The only reason why this gets to stay is because it's a blue, green, purple palette. That's why it's staying. And some of the blues in here, especially also that gray tone that's next to it, I love. But this is a really good navy matte as well. And I also want to show you some more affordable options. Sadly discontinued. However, Beauty Bay does a lot of different palettes, and I'm pretty sure that if you buy one of their larger palettes and you just want blue eyeshadow, they've got you covered. I've got some indie brands left. The September Rose Cosmetics Slush 2 has some really stunning rainbow mattes, and in here we get this beauty of a navy blue. And this is the one where I feel we do get a lot of black in it, like it's sitting next to a really dark purple, but you can't really tell because it's got quite a lot of black. This is one of the reasons why I didn't put in any of my Blend Bunny palettes. Does that even have a navy bluish kind of shade? Yes, it does. But it's got so much black that on my skin tone, it just looks like a straight up black. It doesn't do enough. This is still navy enough that I can get away with it without it looking like I was punched in the face. So navy blue can sometimes do that to you where it just looks a little weird. But this one I feel is a really nice contrast with some of the blues that are in the palette. And it just has a lot of incredible depth to it. So in terms of like one of the deepest navy mattes that I have in my collection, that one takes the cake. And finally, the Ace Beauté Oceanic palette. So this is a blue-green palette, and this I bought when blue-green palettes were all the rage, and it's got this. I also love that teal shimmer, by the way. That's another favorite shade in here. But this navy is really lovely. Now, I still have the old Ace Beauté formula. They've upgraded their formula since this palette came out. So I'm not sure what the new formula is like at all because I haven't tried them since. But this is absolutely stunning. It's a really, really good navy matte as well. It's a matte heavy palette, actually. It only has... no, it does have a few more. But a lot of Ace Beauté palettes are quite matte heavy, which is why I don't love the brand. But this is a really good one. It's got really, really high pigment. That's what you're looking for. You want that super pigmented shade. Then Ace Beauté definitely has it. And I think the Oceanic palette is one they still do. So those are all of the navy shades that I wanted to show you today. I'll pop up a little bit of a screenshot here of what these 10 shades look like when we swatch them out together. I always do that towards the end of these videos so you get a good feel of what the range of navies looks like here. Mostly mattes, which is very unlike me, but like I said in the as I was discussing these shades, I tend to prefer wearing navy shadow as like that pop of color somewhere in my look. Lash liner, lower lash line, pop of color, that sort of thing. That's where I usually go in with these darker shades, unless I want to go for that full-on navy smoky eye. Then I use the Melt Muerte, and I pretty much always do the same look. Sometimes I pull in a couple of those greeny tones that are right next to it in the palette, but yeah, navy blue smoky eye if you have brown eyes, like I mentioned. It's magic. Definitely try it if you haven't yet. So those were the 10 shades I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so very much for joining me today. Thumbs up this video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make 4 videos a week over on this channel, so I hope you'd like to stay tuned for more. And then I hope you'd like to come back for more in my next video. See you there. Bye-bye.